Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am leaving a little bit of space here because we are going to compare these pads to two Artisan pads, both the Hien and the Orange Artisan Zero. These pads are exceptional. They are very special. You guys probably saw these in my ESPTiger unboxing and unveiling of all of the pads the other day. This is the Shan Hai series, and this is a series that is going to be the series to beat in 2023 in terms of performance and in terms of quality on a mouse pad. This is the pink Tang Dao on top. It competes directly with the Orange Artisan Zero or the Artisan Zero in general. We have the Kun Lun, which is going to compete a lot with a Hayate as well as a Artisan Hien. Then we have the Lei Ling with a yellow tag. We have the Wuji with an orange tag and the Feng Ling with a red tag. And now that I've had more time on the pads, I can actually remember their names. But these pads are special. I cannot stress enough how special these pads are, in my opinion. Again, my favorite pads for my own personal performance right now and the pads to beat. I want to start with the pink Tang Dao, which is just an absolutely beautiful pad. I personally chose this one over the black because I really enjoyed this mirrored base on the bottom of the pad. It just sticks to your desk and this thing does not move at all. Comparing the pad directly to a Orange Artisan Zero, the texture of the surface, the fabric, the way it is woven seems very similar to an Orange Artisan Zero. The main difference, in my opinion, and the reason why I go for the pink Tang Dao over the Zero, is that it does feel ever so slightly smoother to the skin, whereas the Zero feels a little bit rougher, the Tang Dao feels a little tiny bit softer. Not only that, but it does feel a little bit more consistent on a glide, feeling ever so slightly a little bit more buttery on the skates. I think the speed of these pads is very similar. It is something that I consider to be a damn good balance with maybe a tiny hair towards control. I do think that the Tang Dao might be a hair faster than the Artisan Zero in both dynamic and static friction. And the reason why I think the pink Tang Dao beats out the Orange Artisan Zero for me, I have my Orange Artisan Zero in soft. I think the foam here on the pink Tang Dao feels about the same, pushing it in as the Artisan Poron. The pad is raised a little bit more over the stitching on the pink Tang Dao. I think the stitching looks just as good and high quality as the Artisan Zero. So again, for me, it's the speed, the texture, the foam feeling compared to the Orange Artisan Zero. And overall, I think the package for me just feels with the mouse on glide to be a very similar experience, probably the closest experience to the Zero out of any pad that's come since the Zero. But overall, just a more consistent glide, in my opinion, one that is a little bit more buttery, and for that reason feels a lot better. And I think the quality of the pad with the mirrored pour-on base compared to a regular pour-on base, and the foam being a little bit higher off the pad, all of those things would leave me to go for the Tang Dao over the Artisan Zero. Now, the pad that I think is the fastest pad out of the bunch maybe could be arguably the Wuji, but the Kun Lun is a pad that I would say is very reminiscent to an Artisan Hien, but on the skates, again, it feels a lot smoother and buttery on glide compared to the abrasiveness and graininess of the Artisan Hien. It also feels better on the skin. Comparing it directly to a Artisan Hien, again, my Hien is in Xsoft. I would say that it is about as good at sinking in with that pour-on compared to my Artisan Hien. Again, the Hien is a lot more prickly, raised, and abrasive. The Kun Lun feels, again, a lot more soft and smooth on the glide. It doesn't feel as though it's quite as much of a hard pad as the Artisan Hien. In terms of the speed, I do think it's a little bit faster than the Artisan Hien, and I think it's a whole heck load of a lot more consistent than an Artisan Hien. The pad's a little bit smaller than the X-large size of the Artisan Hien, but overall, again, the material is a little bit higher off the stitching of the pad. The stitching's not quite as thin, but pretty damn close to the Artisan Hien. Overall, I think the build quality is just on par to an Artisan, if not even better. And overall, the surface, I think, is much more enjoyable than an Artisan Hien. This pad has killed the Hien for me. I would never go back to the Hien over the Kun Lun. And then we have the Lei Ling with a yellow tag. This is a similar material to the Kun Lun. It's not as abrasive feeling, but you still have a texture to it when you are kind of rubbing your hands on this. I almost feel like this is a Jacquard version of a Artisan Zero. It is almost a similar appearance to how it looks on an Artisan Zero. So a different fabric, but kind of along the same vein. I do think this is ever so more controlled than the Kun Lun, not as fast. So if you want a pad like the Kun Lun, but you want a little bit more control, something that kind of reminds me of the Venus in terms of speed from Lethal Gaming Gear, but maybe a hair faster. The Lei Ling is an exceptional pad. Again, one that has a fabric like the Kun Lun, one that is a little bit smoother to the skin and not as abrasive, but still has that texture. Buttery smooth to the glide, but ever so slightly slower than the Kun Lun and the Artisan Hien. An exceptional pad, one that is very good with that Xsoft pour-on density. One of my favorite fabrics out of all of the fabrics used in the line is the Wuji. This is not a pour-on pad. This is the pad that has that base with ESPTiger kind of inlaid on the base itself. This material is very, very smooth to the skin, a little bit of a texture to it on the skin, but very smooth. And the glide is one of the most buttery smooth out of all of the glides. Almost reminds me of how my skates and mouse feel gliding across the new Raiden once you break it in. Of course, the foam density is not as pliable as the Xsoft Artisan or the Xsoft kind of feel on the pour-on on some of these other pads, but there is a little bit of give, almost like a medium to soft Artisan. But the glide is exceptionally smooth, probably not as fast as the Kun Lun, but kind of close to the Kun Lun, with static that does feel nice and open, and dynamic that does feel nice and fast, but not too fast. Definitely faster, in my opinion, than the Lei Ling. Not as slow as the Feng Ling, which we'll get into next. Pretty close to the Kun Lun, but very, very, very smooth. And then we have the Feng Ling. This is kind of your typical cloth pad, but one that has a smidge, and I mean just a smidge of tug to provide additional control. For me, this is probably the slowest pad in the line, both on static, which can get very, very controlled if you need it, and dynamic. Dynamic feels nice and open. You don't feel tug on dynamic, but once you start moving a little slow, you can feel a little tiny smidge of that extra built-in control feeling, a little tiny, tiny bit of mud, which usually I hate on a pad, but it is so faint on the Feng Ling that I was able to perform very well on this pad. It feels exceptional, and what I would say is probably the biggest competitor to a Zowie GSR, and in my opinion, a better pad than the Zowie GSR. So guys, I'm having a very hard time picking a favorite out of the 5. I think all of these pads are exceptionally good. I think right now I'm leaning towards the Kun Lun as well as the Pink Tang Dao as my 2 favorites. But again, it's very close and very difficult. I'm going to throw up a little picture of all of the little descriptions here of each of the pads, and of course, show you guys some gameplay, as I've accumulated quite a bit on these pads, and I've had a very enjoyable experience with my Atlantis 4K, my regular Pulsar X2, with the ESPTiger dots on my Pulsar, and the Ghost Glide dots on my 4K Lamzu, both of which feel exceptionally good and high quality in terms of skates.
so fucking hot.
So guys, I hope the video shed some light on these pads and my thoughts, my impressions, and my gameplay with the pads. All of them are absolutely exceptional. Again, I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.